You're listening to Small Business Talk with Jerry. Sit in on great conversations with entrepreneurs who risk everything chasing the American dream.
Hey everybody, Small Business Talk with Jerry. I'm Jerry. Here we are with another episode. We have Marty McQuiston with us, Jordan Carrillo with Add-On, a new business. He's co-hosting with me tonight, but anyways, introduce yourself, guys.
Yeah, you guys have heard me before. I'm Jordan Carrillo. I'm the owner of Add-On Media Management. I do digital and content creation for local businesses here in Rochester, Minnesota. And I'm going to transition on to my friend Marty here.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Marty McQuiston. I own and operate Focal Point here in Rochester, Minnesota. Focal Point is my company that I use in order to help people live their lives better. And I do that through coaching and consulting in business sense. So when people need help with things, boy, there is no rewind on this, is there?
You've been warned.
I'm going to own this whole intro. Scrap all that. No, it's all good. But yeah, I just help people be excellent at what they do so that they can be home and spend time with their families and the people that matter most to them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I met Marty just recently, in the last couple months here, but he's part of Small Business Referral Group, is where I met him. And I was so impressed just the first couple of conversations and what I was probably the most impressed with was how decisive you were. Because that's one thing, I don't know that joining SBR is a big decision. Again, you're a business coach. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you that down the road. We're going to discuss this, but I don't feel like once you know what it's about and you've visited a chapter, I don't know that it's a life-changing decision, right? And so many people, it takes time. And there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of overthinking that goes into it. And you were just like, this is great. Yeah. And it was an easy decision. How do I get in? And you were just, you just needed the information. It wasn't like a needy type request. We know those folks too, the needy ones. And then the ones that are like, I'm just looking and they don't want to talk to you about it. And you knew what you wanted. You made a decision. I was very impressed by that. And then when you took over the education portion of the meeting, that was what, 3 weeks in?
I think
4 weeks? I would say it wasn't
3 weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't very many. And then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, throwing the new guy to the wolves to do this. I wasn't real thrilled with that idea. Sure. But Denise, who kind of hooked you up with it, I trust her explicitly. She is wonderful people. Yep. So I trust her, and I was like, okay, well,
Denise
fair enough.
From For Youth.
Yes, Denise from For Youth, absolutely. But I tell you, you're killing it. I just absolutely love. I love your content, and I love the presentation. And for me, it's just how genuine it is. Yeah. Because coming from a business coach, again, we all have different experiences, right? Coming from a business coach, that with my experience, I'm thinking, this is just going to be so dry and mechanical. So to the point. Business oriented, and you just, you talk like a human being, not someone that's just focused on the business. So what's your opinion? You're in that same group. I love his education. It's so much better than I could do.
Talk about accepting responsibility pretty early on in the group.
Right.
That's something to say, and how decisive you are. I also noticed that too. You attended one meeting and this is it. This is the group. Yeah. I don't know if it's Tuesday, if we just have the magic there over other groups, but yeah, definitely. I loved how decisive you were, and it's probably your years in coaching and knowing that that you have to make a decision. It's just, I like to think of it as a basketball coach. If you're on the crunch and on the timeline, you have to make a decision. You don't have time to sit there. Yeah, you can call a timeout, but you have a minute.
Right. And you only get so many of those.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So you have to make those calls. So, I think that just leads into kind of your expertise there. And
so I was really impressed. That was one of the first things I noticed, first things I took note of with you, and I was like, it's impressive. Because when I hear coach, consultant, the first thing that comes to mind, and my history, so the first thing that comes to mind is there's an overthinker. Honestly, and again, we shouldn't lump everybody together. We actually talked about that, prior to recording here, but but that's the stereotype in my head. It's like, oh, this guy, he's going to overthink everything. And then when you just like, boom, I want to do this. And you gave me like 2 or 3 reasons why. And it's like, you literally sat through one meeting and you picked up on all these, very perceptive. Mm-hmm. So very impressed, Marty, to be honest. I was just, that really, so I would have, and for me, when you own the company, mm-hmm. okay, and I'm going to bring people into SBR, it's Small Business Referral Group. I'm going to refer you clients. And I try to keep, hopefully, with me, everything for me is relationships. Mm-hmm. And so if I have a client, whether it's at my auto shop, when I used to own my gun shop, anywhere I'm at, these people mean something to me, and they trust me. If they're asking me about you or, something like that, they trust me. I want to make sure that when I give them you give them all that you can. Right. You treat them like you would me or you would, your mom, know, and that's, you have to surround yourself with people like that. And so, it usually takes me a long time to make up my mind, and talk about being decisive because when you talk to someone for 5 minutes, mm-hmm. you don't know that person. Right. When you hang out with them in a group for maybe a year, you still probably don't know them, Right. So I am pretty reserved in making my, my assessment, my opinion. It's like, okay, well, the first couple of people I send you are probably people that I know can handle themselves, mm-hmm. and it's like, let's just see how you do. I don't have any of those reservations with you. Oh. And that's very weird for me because I'm usually just like, I can't just send you anybody until I know you, right.
So walk us through your experience in making that decision.
Yeah.
Well, I think when I was looking at that that decision, if I back up for a second, my background, I ran a business in the local community. I didn't own it, but out in Byron, a pretty large commercial printer out there. Okay. Spent almost 30 years there, 29 years. And even though I was responsible for, a couple hundred people in my downstream, I didn't have a lot of connection in the local business community. And that was challenging for me. Sure. So I had all my contacts were national, international in scope, just because of the nature of our business. Right. So it was important for me to infuse myself in the local community because, people would ask me when I would go to the chamber events, hey, when did you move here? Well, 30 years ago, I guess,
right around the time color TVs came out.
Exactly. So, just trying to get my name out there and meet people, it was challenging. Chamber does a really good event. They do like a morning coffee and then an evening thing. But, twice a month is just not something that's going to be quick enough, right? Right. So I was looking for a group, and I dated a few groups. Sure. When I got to the SBR group, what struck me different about it was just the camaraderie that I saw.
Relationships.
So the relationships, and look, we're all there to help each other and to get more business and to drive more business towards each other, but you don't feel that pressure cooker of like you're a number or a metric, right? There's other ones out there that hey, you better pony up your referrals this week or something like that. And so when I was at this group, I noticed that, and then we had a gentleman giving his business or his member spotlight that day, and he told his whole life story, his background, and I thought if this gentleman could share this. Yeah, it was
okay. Yep. That was a powerful presentation he did.
It was really impressive, and I thought if this person is this comfortable with these people, this is where I belong. That's where awesome. I belong.
That's awesome. So, that was a good day for that because I remember another one, Christine, when Christine Lundeen did hers. Hers was very similar to that, very powerful. She talked about a few of her demons and how she overcame them. And I mean, just again, if you sat in that room, there were not many dry eyes, to be honest. And if you sat in that room and you didn't like her when she was done, you are dead inside. I mean, were you there for hers? when
I
we were
don't
up in the.
believe so.
We
I
were
think I
still
missed that
meeting at the
one.
Eagles
Yeah.
back then,
Mhm.
and I say I don't know if you were in yet, but I'll tell you what. I mean, I was so choked up at the end of her story, and like I said, if you didn't, even if you had never met her, and I thought you do that in a business group setting,
Right.
that says volumes about her, but it also says a lot about the group you're in. That she had that kind of, that she, and I should mention, she's not a weirdo. She wasn't like, just a
Right.
sharer. I mean, I guess that's she really just felt that comfortable in that group, and we all do.
Yeah.
So no, I appreciate that. That's really kind words, because that gives me some insight too. Because if I explain SBR to you and what we do and our process, our agenda, I mean, like the hour and a half long meeting agenda, it doesn't sound much different than any of the other ones.
Right.
On paper, they all look the same, and they really truly are so similar. I mean, it's hard to differentiate quality, but sitting in it, and of course I'm biased. It's my company, right? I mean, it's something it's my baby. I started, so I want everyone to feel what you're explaining, but to hear you say it, it's like,
Yeah.
boy, that's warming.
Well,
I
at
mean,
least
yeah,
once a
good.
week, when somebody stands up, sorry, when someone stands up, they talk about how much they look forward to the meeting
Yeah.
every single week, that it just brightens their mood. But going back to hearing Isaiah Severson pressure washing, I always like to give a little shameless plug.
little
in there for
shameless
him.
plug, yes,
Yeah.
amen.
Hearing Isaiah's story was moving enough. What are some of the relationships that you have built so far in your short time being there?
Yeah, you mentioned Denise earlier. So we struck it off really good right away. And it was funny because when I came there as a guest, I didn't really know anybody, and she just came right over and made
She's
me
so
feel
warm.
welcome
Yeah.
immediately. And I'm like, wow, this is really good. So her and I have had one-on-one before, or a handshake and
Yep.
hello. And so definitely, a good person there. Also had handshake and hello with Jordan here. Smart guy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so just the caliber of the people there. I'm just kind of thinking about all the people when you take a step back and think about.
There's a lot of impressive people in that group.
Yeah,
There really are.
yeah.
Yep. And some of them are so unassuming, which is what I
Right.
love about it. There's nobody walks in there with their chest out.
No.
It's just not that at all. It's like coming home for Sunday dinner.
Right.
When you walk in the morning, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, how's it going? And it's just so easy going. But yeah, you're right. A lot of quality people. I mean, Jordan and I, when you first came in, I thought we connected pretty quick. And now I would say Jordan and I went way past acquaintance. I mean, we chat, we talk, when we have a problem, we're not afraid to reach out going, what do you think of this? Let me run something by you.
It might be an asinine about this decision here.
Well, yeah, that's it. It's like, that's it. It's like, if I did this to you, how would you feel about that? Kind of thing. It's like,
You're an asshole.
yeah, it's like, it's like, am I on the right side of it? You have a question. It's like, and I pick on Jordan because of the age difference. There's at least a 3-week gap, between the two of us.
At least 3.
But it's great. I have 2 Jordans in my life. Jordan Whitcomb and Jordan Carrillo, and they're both the same age, or within a couple of years of each other. And I really lean on those two to get that younger perspective.
Yeah.
Because I can appreciate, one, how smart they are. Right, the intelligence is a big deal. But for me, to find someone that's in that 30-ish range, late 20s, 30 years old, that has the ambition and drive that I feel that I still have at my old age, that's the perspective I want. I don't want, if you're a slug and you're smart, your opinion is still not that important to me.
Right.
To be honest, right? But when you have someone who's ambitious and driven and intelligent, it's like, okay, here's what I got going on. How would you take this if you were in my shoes, or if I was doing this with you, and this is how it was going to go? I want their perspective, because I know what the old guy thinks.
Yeah.
I've been there for a while now.
Right.
So, well, and we don't want to make this an SBR podcast,
No,
obviously.
yeah.
But I mean, that's how the three of us know each
Yeah.
other. So we got to start somewhere. But
So when we had a handshake and hello, my biggest thing is, and what I'm sure a lot of people are probably asking themselves is, how does someone refer, or how does someone know to work with Marty?
That's a good question.
Right.
Well, right. Well, yeah, maybe, and if I can even squeeze that a little bit.
Yeah.
How would I go to Jordan and go, hey, Jordan, the new business, this is great. You need a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, without offending him. I mean, no, really, because it's like,
Yeah.
wow, you're great at this. But if you were better, you wouldn't need this guy. So how do we refer you without telling them they need help?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the trick, right?
Right, it is.
Yeah,
You bet it is.
It really is the trick. And the way that I say it is, so a lot of times people think about a coach or a consultant, and they think about, boy, this person must be having problems, right? There must be some kind of a loser or something
Right.
if they need a coach or, somebody to help them out. But the reality of it is, if you look at successful people, if you look at football aside, Tom Brady,
Yeah,
if you were to look
right.
at him, super successful, he has a coach. Look at Tiger Woods in his heyday, has a coach.
Right.
Michael Phelps knows how to swim, but he has a coach.
And none of those coaches can outperform
No.
the people you just mentioned. Not a single
not
one
a
of their
chance.
coaches could
Yeah.
outperform them on their best day.
Yeah. So I think sometimes people are apprehensive about mentioning it or saying it because they think, oh, I'm telling this person, like, hey, you need deodorant, right?
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so sometimes I just think about how you network and how you can network. So if you hear people in your life that are saying things like, oh, I missed my kid's soccer game again, or boy, I have to stay late because nobody else can do what I do, or no, these
Yeah.
type of trigger kind of sentences,
Sure.
statements there. When you hear those things, those are somewhat cries for help, right?
Yeah.
That people wear that like a badge of honor. I put in 80 hours this
Right.
week, or I did this thing.
I used
But-
to.
Yeah.
I used to be so proud of that, and now it's like,
yeah.
now I'm proud to say, no, I go home at 4:30.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's my new badge.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So when you run across these folks that are speaking that language or saying that
That's a good
thing, then it's like, hey, I know this guy you should meet.
Yep.
Marty. And it doesn't even have to be about he can help you.
Yeah.
He's got thoughts on things.
Sure.
We talk a lot about the ed element that we do in the weekly thing. So sometimes those are good, kind of conversation starters, if you
Yeah.
will, too. So I know one of the people in our group I had a handshake and hello with, and she was going through some challenges trying to hire people. And we talked a lot about the 3 I's
Yeah.
that we talked about. And, just that kind of unsticking, your mindset there,
Yep.
it helps quite a bit.
Well, and I know who you're talking about, and
Yeah.
she is, again, talk about good people.
Mhm.
Fantastic. She's a great person, and a great employee.
Yep.
But now
Owner.
right? Now you make that transition to owner. It's like
Yeah.
that's a big step.
It
That's
is.
and I think a lot of people are their own biggest obstacle for sure. They get in there and they just get in their own head.
Yeah.
And it's I had this conversation with a good friend of mine on weight loss. And I'm going to equate this to business.
Yeah.
Business, and I made a comment after losing weight. We were talking, and she said, just how? I'm like, well, it's simple. And it was, and I didn't mean it arrogantly. I didn't mean it, so I wasn't trying to be smug. I was just like, weight loss is simple. And it really triggered her. I mean, to be honest, she
Sure.
immediately, because she's a big girl, I was a huge guy. So, I had 350 pounds a little over a year ago. And she was like, it is not easy. There is nothing easy. I was like, oh, whoa, stop. I did not say easy.
Simple.
I said simple.
Yeah.
And so my analogy to her, I was like, I can show you how to chop down a redwood with a hatchet. Sharp end, point it towards a tree, swing a lot.
Yeah.
Simple, right? Not easy,
Right.
right?
Right.
You may not live long enough to get to the other end of that tree, right? But to do it, pretty simple,
Yep.
but extremely difficult. And I said, and that's the same thing. And now in business, I'd say it's the other way around. Because most of the things you do are fairly easy.
Yes.
Fairly easy, but they're not simple.
Right.
You know, it's not point the sharp end towards a tree
Right.
and hit it. You know, it's not that. It's to figure out what to do. That's the difficult part. Once you figure out what it is, execution, most of the things in business, you're not breaking rock in a prison yard.
Right.
You're not
Right.
breaking a sweat for the most part. It's all management side.
Yeah.
So, and you can't know what you don't know. So I mean,
Right.
that's where you come in.
That's exactly right.
Now you said something earlier, and so I want to know, because I've always been under the impression that a consultant and a coach are different, and you said
Yeah.
people looking for a coach consultant. You kind of put them together. Did you mean that, or
Yeah.
are they different?
Well, those roles are different.
Okay.
Sometimes when you're in business like you are, you know that you can wear multiple hats,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so I think where it gets fuzzy is when people combine the roles. So when you talk about a coach versus a consultant, two completely different roles. The same person could be either of those things.
Sure.
And so in my business, I do both things.
Okay.
And so if I started with consulting, because it's the easiest to describe,
Yep.
I would say when everyone kind of has heard of a consultant or understands what that is, it's really you pay somebody for all the answers.
Yeah.
I'm having a business
expert.
problem,
Yep.
right? I pay you, you come in, you take a look, and you give me all the answers.
Yep.
Very simple, very straightforward. Coaching, on the other hand, if consulting is feeding the fish, coaching is teaching the fish. And so when you come in as a coach, you don't have all the answers. I can't tell you how about a transmission in one of your vehicles. I
Right.
have no idea.
Yeah.
But I know what questions to ask to drive you to that clarity. Because
Sure.
when you're acting as a coach, you understand that the business owner, they're the subject matter expert. They know their business better than anybody.
So you're
But
saying
they get confused or cloudy or foggy. Oops, there I did. I
Yep.
bumped it.
There you go. It's out of the way now.
Get that out of the way. They can be clouded by their own judgment, their own paradigms that they're seeing, and so as a coach, you help them unveil that and gain clarity.
So I mean, trying not to oversimplify
Yeah.
this either, but so basically you're saying a coach is going to come in. You're not an automotive guy.
Right.
That's not your specialty at
Right.
all. So you could come into my auto shop, and basically where you're going to be a procedural guy. You're going to you're going to come up with, you're going to look at what I do and find better ways to accomplish what I do without trying to be the expert and tell me how to fix a car.
Right.
You're going to give me the processes or the procedures to streamline so I'm not putting in 80 hours a week.
Right.
And because one of my favorite lines, I can't quote who told me this. My dad told me this, but I'm sure he heard it from someone, and not maybe he didn't. I'm guessing he stole it from somebody. But anyway, don't ever confuse effort with progress. And when I was a kid, I really didn't get what that meant. You know, you really don't understand that as a child,
Right.
And even as a teenager, you kind of, but then I get into my 20s. And I was adopted by my grandparents. So my dad was my grandpa by blood. So I mean, he was considerably older than me. And of course, I'm in my 20s, and I could work circles around him, right? I mean, physically.
Yeah.
But if we both attacked the same thing for an hour, he always got more done than I did, always. And it's like, now wait a minute, and he was telling us, don't confuse effort for progress. He said, if we're paying on effort today, you'd be a millionaire, But he says, fortunately, the world works on results.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
where I shine. And he just
Yeah.
kind of teased me about that,
Yeah.
And it's like, I just had this conversation with a friend of mine at the gym. He owns a windows and siding company, and he was talking about hiring people and whatever. And I said that, don't confuse effort with progress. He's like, give me that again. So I said it again. And I was like, here's my analogy for you. You're a windows and doors guy. Yep. I'm like, okay, so we got a duplex. It's two identical halves to a house. Yep. And I said, so it needs all new windows. I said, you hire me to come in. I'm going to do the windows on this house, on this half. You're going to do windows on that half. Now, we got the exact same pile of parts, right? The windows, all the stuff. I said, you go in a day and a half, you got your windows done. Now, I go in, and I bust my butt. I'm there from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and Saturday morning by 11, I get the last nail put in, right? The last piece of siding put back on. And he's like, okay. I said, no, my windows look great. Yours obviously look great. You're the professional, but no difference in quality of work. But I said, so how much more am I getting paid? Because it took me, 5.5 days, where it took you a day and a half. How much more do I get paid for that? And he's
Zero.
right. And he just kind of looks at me and goes, you just got me in trouble.
Yeah,
is what you
yeah,
did. I'm
yeah,
like, because
exactly.
the job wasn't done on
Yeah.
time. But that's my point. And they're like, so again,
Yeah.
I got way more effort in that job than you did. And at the end of it, it's quality work. So it's not like it's a hodgepodge. I didn't outshine you, but I didn't, So I said, so do I get more? Do I get to charge more for that job to the customer?
No.
No, they're mad because it took 5.5 days.
Right.
Yours was, so
Probably giving them a discount.
right. You're probably right. You're probably giving a discount. So that was it. He's just like, that's deep. He's like, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, I'm telling you, don't confuse that. So that's kind of what you're saying with the coaching side of things.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
get rid of some of the effort and.
I like what you said there is the questions to ask to provide clarity. And that to me is really powerful. But I'm going to kind of challenge that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
So, just as if I was a potential prospect that you were talking to, they might have
You
some
are.
of these.
Yeah.
Right.
You've got a new business.
Yeah, he's got a new business.
Yeah.
I might
Yeah,
have
you
some
are.
of these objections here, but now I kind of forgot what I was going to say.
See, that's where I
That's
excel.
there you go. You can help him out.
So you mentioned all these athletes like
Yeah,
Tiger
yeah.
Woods, Michael Phelps,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, maybe, right? They all had coaches. But the coach has to understand the sport of basketball. So say, for example, with Jerry, you had said, I don't know how to fix a car. So if you don't understand the concept of fixing a car, how do you coach someone like Jerry?
Well, I think it's not so much about me becoming the subject matter expert about fixing the car,
Okay.
but you ask the questions, and so it doesn't matter if you're fixing a car or, in my background, commercial print or direct mail or different things like this.
Or
It's
building a social media post.
Yeah, it's a
campaign.
series of connected events, right? And so when you look at a business, back to your simple, is it simple or complicated? It's simple. You're going to get a certain amount of revenue in, and then you have your expenses, and what's left is your profit, right?
Yep.
So you can say it one of two ways. You either have to take in more revenue than you have expenses, or you have to spend less money than you have coming in.
Yep.
If you don't do one of those two things, you're going to go out of business, right?
And then remember, it's very hard to back yourself into a profit.
Right.
It's hard to cut expenses into profit. Now, huge waste, which we have plenty of that going on in the news right now, but you can't have that big fat cat, the big waste.
Right.
But if you're running your business modestly, you're probably not going to back your way into a profit.
You're not going
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not trying to politician my way around
Right.
your question, but you have to look at the business as a series of those components, and that's where the questions come in. So I don't ask Jerry, what's the timing? I'm getting the my cousin Vinny.
Yeah, right, right.
The
Yeah.
top dead center,
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't need to know that.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter. You know that.
Yep.
Your technicians know that,
Yep.
right? And so it's more about, in those cases, where is the problems? What are you experiencing? What do you want to be your goals? And when you start drawing that vision, back to your earlier comment, the pathway becomes very, very clear.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, I don't know football whatsoever.
Yeah.
I like my chances of trying to get the Vikes in the playoffs next year if I get up there. As an armchair quarterback, that's probably whatever. But when it comes to business, it's really just focusing in on those fundamental things that are going to move the needle.
Yeah.
Well,
I see one thing. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I see one thing with the youth in social media and digital presence is everything is now and readily accessible.
Yeah.
With that being the case, the patience level for the younger generation is not as abundant.
Right.
It's very thin.
Yep.
So that's, I guess, where I could see coaching coming in is, I'm just going to throw in the towel because it didn't work the first time. Right?
I was waiting for him to throw in asking for a friend.
Yeah.
So, is it more along the lines of motivating that individual?
It can, as a coach, you take a lot of hats on. Sometimes you're, providing motivation. Sometimes it's providing clarity. What's most important is that you gain traction with the client. So when you're coaching people, to your point, you can't just say, hey, this is a 6 months process, trust me, and 6 months and 1 day your life's going to be better, right? You have to build that trust along the way. And the way that I work with my clients is, we set out a path, and then we check in, and we're regularly getting feedback based on, are you moving fast enough? Where do you want to be? It all starts with that clarity. If you don't know where you want to go, I know in our SBR meeting the one time, I think, Jerry, you might have been in Vegas, but we talked a lot about the plane ticket analogy. So this might be new for you.
Yeah,
so this will be fun. So you come home from work and you open your mailbox and you found out that you won a free trip somewhere.
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
You're already in a good state of mind, right? And so you pull out the paperwork and here's your plane ticket. Well, what's important on the plane ticket?
What's important on it?
Yeah, what's important on it? What's one of the...
Okay, to me,
The time.
to me, it's the seat.
The seat?
Yeah, to me, it's the seat because I don't want to sit in the middle between two guys. I'm a big guy. I've lost some weight, but I'm still a big guy. I want to be comfortable. You know?
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to be squishing over on the guy next to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
So for me, that's
Seat.
yeah.
As a time, if you don't make the time of the flight, you don't go at all.
Right. Yeah, some other things that might be important, where are you going?
Sure.
Where are you leaving from? How long
That shows
are you
how
going to
desperate
be
I am.
there?
That shows how desperate I am for entertainment.
You only care about
I
the
just
seat.
I just want to know I'm getting comfy getting there. It doesn't matter where I'm going. Wow, I just kind of gave you a little insight into my life, didn't I?
I want a good seat. All right.
Doesn't matter
We're
where
going
I'm
to
going.
Cleveland.
Yeah, we're going to Cleveland, but I'm going to be comfy on the way.
Yeah. So when you work with a coach, they're really helping you fill out that plane ticket. That plane ticket isn't very good if you miss the flight, right?
Right.
It's not so good if you don't know where you're going or what to pack in your luggage. So really the clarity is really where you start to get traction with the client, understanding where they want to be. Even as something as simple, I met with a prospect a couple weeks ago and they said, well, I want more sales. I'm like, okay, well, everybody wants more sales.
Everybody wants more sales.
And so it's a good question, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, how do I get more sales? And okay, well, there's multiple ways to get more sales. How do you want to get more sales? Do you want to add new customers? Do you want to get more business with your current customers? Do you want to expand your product offerings, your service offerings? Do you want to get into a new area? What does that look like for you? And, some people will do the diversify thing and they'll, give me 10% of each of those things.
Yeah.
And other people say, no, I want to stay in my lane and I want to get more new customers. Or, so if you don't know how you want to do it, you're going to be spinning your wheels, right? So
I've got a maybe a potentially dangerous question for you. I'm going to ask the magician where the rabbit went, is what I'm going to ask. But would it be safe to assume then, if you came to me and I want to hire you, and you want to look at what I'm doing before you take the job, of course, to make sure that it's something you can be successful with for me. But is it safe to say then that after you assess my business and me, and what you're coming into, you're going to pick the easiest win to start with? Kind of like losing weight. I mean, if you don't lose 5 pounds in that first week, it's tough to keep going. It's tough to go on to the second week. So is that a fair assessment and not that it's a bad thing, it's just, but do you look for an easy win to get the ball rolling so that there's some confidence built up between you and me?
I guess my first answer would be I would look for the thing that's most important for the client. So you could have an easy...
Even if it's the hardest thing, though?
Even if it's the hardest thing, because if let's just say you could have an easy win on operational effectiveness, right?
Yep.
Hey, they could just tune up their shipping process and boom, we're going to start making a few more bucks.
Sure.
that could be good for me, could be good for any of us at this table. But if that's not what the client's interested in, you're not helping. You're actually putting their priorities behind your own, if you will. So
that's a good point.
You want to look for that good win in the area that they want help.
Okay.
So
I'm just thinking a way to build a little rapport
Yep.
and show results right away, just to keep the ambition going.
Yeah.
I like that though. That's honest. You're willing. You're putting yourself at risk, and you're willing to lose a client that you know you can help because you're tackling their priorities head first.
Yeah. Well, I'll make them aware of that quick. If you see the quick win, I want to bring it to their attention.
Yeah. Well, because so I'm gonna share a quick story. I have a million of them, unfortunately. So that's what we do here. But I was in car sales years ago.
Sure.
I mean, 100 years ago it feels like. But one of the things that I lost so many sales in the very beginning, because I'd have this guy walk in. I need a red convertible. It's got to be fast. It's got to be sexy. It's this is and then they had $9 to spend, and it's like I'd go on the lot. It's like I don't have any red convertibles. There's nothing I can do for you. And then you'd see them a month later at the mall, and they're driving like a green Caravan, and it's like, the hell happened to the red convertible? Well, and essentially, no matter the reason, if you didn't listen to the words, listen to the intent, the reason was always the same. I ran into a real salesman. Bottom line, as I'm asking them, what the heck?
Yeah.
This isn't a red convertible. It's a brown Taurus. It's like, what do you. But they could tell you all the specifics, and you'd have a half-hour conversation. But at the end of the day, what I walked away from it was, I ran into a real salesman.
That's funny.
And,
and it's true.
And it's true. It's 100% true. So but at the end of the day, I still think it'd be hard for me to do what you do and not look for the easy win. Yeah. Not because it's easy, not because I don't want to work, not because I don't want to provide value. I want to build that confidence.
Right.
And find that quick kind of slam dunk, if you will, to do that. But I love your approach because it's real and it has value. And I don't want to make mine sound superficial. It really is just about showing them, hey, I recognize the easy win. Let's get this one in and out of the books, and let's take our win. Yep. And now I know what I'm doing. But you're right. Jordan hit it right on the head. That at that point, if I were, that would be more about me than as a coach. It would be more about the coach than the business. But sometimes, to my story about the red convertible, I'm assuming there's times where you have to carefully tell the client that what you want isn't what you should want. Right. Your priorities are off. And again, another hard conversation.
Right.
But isn't that something you must have to deal with also? Yeah,
you want to make sure that you're helping them, and so when that situation happens, and it does happen,
right?
You just try to bring them back through those. We talked about root cause this week.
Yeah.
So
another great education moment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's a great tool even for that, is to say you're focused on here, but you're trying to tackle a symptom. Or you're trying to tackle something because it's flashy or fun, and you can do that. It's your business. I'll help you with it.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get the traction until you focus on the underlying situation. And so sometimes the things that make the most progress aren't very sexy, and people are kind of like, yeah, really, we got to work on culture. We got to,
right?
Yeah, well, we got to do that because, your employees need to show up, and they have to carry this. They have to be your face of the company when you're not there. So how do you, convince people that, hey, we got to invest in this. We have to do this thing. So.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a statement, and
Sure.
I don't know that it's right.
Okay.
So you have to you critique or correct me. So you can be a coach and not be a consultant. You can't be a consultant and not be a coach.
It's pretty hard.
Right? I mean, because as a consultant, you get the guy with the answers, but you've still got to kind of babysit the customer, the client, and that consultants don't do. I mean, that's a coach. So, I mean, if you're a consultant, you got to be able to do both.
Right.
But you could be a coach and just be a coach.
That's right.
Because, I mean...
Well, and sometimes, sometimes you can have consultants that, maybe it's how much bedside manner do they have, so to speak.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so, everybody's been in business or seen a consultant come in and they're like, do this, do that. You listen to me and just take this, and then they disappear. 6 months later, the problem's back.
Right.
And
Right.
so, there are people that operate that way. I try to blend the coaching in with that as much as I can. But sometimes they just want the problem fixed, and
Yep.
you know.
And that's a good gig too. If they know what they're looking for, it just that's my hardest thing when as a business owner, when I go in, I was having lunch with Greg Ahrensfeld. You guys both know Greg. I was having lunch with him yesterday. We were at Whistle Binky's North, and the bill was whatever it was. I put down a $50 bill, and it was my turn to buy. We'd trade off, I put down a $50 bill. When the waitress come by, she's like, "How many times do you hear this? Do you need any change?" Right? You hear that all the time, right? And Greg, you can internally, I can see him losing his mind. He just hates. We've talked about this way, and he hates it. He hates it. Our waitress, and she wasn't a teenager, looked experienced, and she was a very good waitress. She comes up and she says, "Let me grab your change," and she just takes. I was like, "Nope, that's for you. You're good."
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. You guys have a great day. And she walks away, and I turn back and look at Greg, and Greg is like, he's got his hands up in the air, like he just kicked the game-winning field goal, and I'm like, I said, "What?" He goes, "Weren't you listening?"
Yeah.
"Let me go get your change."
Yeah.
Not, "Do you need any change?" And he's just making this huge deal out of it, and I'm dying laughing because he's so passionate about that one thing, But he gets it, He's a salesman. That's what he does for a living, and he knows people. And he's just, but he's like, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, we've had this conversation, but I was laughing because I turned out and he's got his hands up there and he's just all excited because the waitress didn't ask me if I needed change, and it's like, and that is one of those little things that it always annoyed me when they'd say, "Do you need change?"
Yeah, you go up to the drive-through for a coffee shop and you get asked the question, "So how much do you want to tip today?" "Oh, I didn't know that was required." Then you make the person feel terrible for saying, no.
But it's like, but I mean, it always kind of annoyed me, but I never really considered it a training issue.
Right.
But it absolutely is. But that is one thing when it comes to going out and having lunch, when I would interview employees, I love taking them to lunch. Not so much employees, but if a business partner, it's somebody I'm going to start doing business with, a vendor, something like that. I love going out to lunch, and you see how they treat the server. Because if you have no respect for the server, I have no respect for you.
Right.
It's that simple. We're all human beings. We're all there doing a job. And if you think your job is that much more important than hers or his, that you can just be that guy, pass.
Yeah.
I'll find there's somebody else I can buy that widget from, or whatever. There's somebody else that I can hire as an editor. I can have them freelance some photos or something. It's like I don't need that headache. And that is something that, and when you look at Greg, he is just so passionate about that, and that now I've picked up on it, and it's just but I always say, when you get a bad server, there's a chance that person's just having a bad day. Cut them some slack. But the overwhelming fact is they probably weren't trained very well.
Right.
The problem with their being a bad server is not that they're a bad server, it's the system that they're in. The restaurant they're at did not train them. The manager, the owner, whatever the case is.
Right.
But now you're back to coaching. That's a coaching, because you're not going to coach that waitress.
Right.
We need to coach the manager, the owner, whatever.
Exactly.
Take care of this girl. Take care of this guy. Make sure that they understand what the customer wants.
Yeah. Well, and to expound upon that too, that waitress's manager was probably the best waiter they had or waitress they had, and they probably moved that person up and didn't provide any coaching or training for that person either. And you see that a lot in business, where the best salesperson or the best guy, you should run the place.
Yeah. We say that. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to other business owners, like, what, they'll ask me a question of, what do you see, problems, whatever. It's like one of the biggest problems that I see is you take and you make your best salesman your worst manager.
Yep.
And that happens over and over and over. It happens everywhere. It's like, promote within. I do believe in promoting within, but I also believe in not giving somebody something they're not prepared for.
Right.
Whether that means I have to train you, or I just have to go, I don't think this is for you.
Right.
And sometimes that's the answer.
Yep.
And it's a hard conversation to have when you look at someone and go, Jordan, you're my best salesman. I don't know if you've got what it takes to run the place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now obviously, hopefully, you don't ever have to say it out loud like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, but now it's like then you have to look at yourself, and sometimes, and I have said this when I was younger. It's like when people would ask, you know, okay, is this something I can apply for? You know, trying to move up in the company, and it's like, I've said it wrong a few times. I'm not gonna lie. The one I'm the most proud of, and it's the God's honest truth. I just didn't see it when I was younger. Was I don't know if I have the ability to teach you and train you in what you need to do to be successful if I move you up to that particular position. You know, it's like, but take responsibility. It's like, because at the end of the day, I think we can all be a brain surgeon.
Right.
Now, you might be able to get through that in 6 months. It might take me 12 years. You know, I mean, we're not because to say we're all created equal, sure, or do we all have the same capability? Nope.
Right.
We just don't. You know, and that's not trying to be.
And speaking on moving up within the company, when we had a coffee, you had mentioned most of your clients typically are brought up that way, is people that are recently moved to executive positions.
Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned that those were your typical clients.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, it's a pretty common thing in a lot of businesses, but in manufacturing, it's almost exclusively that way. You know, people come up from the shop floor to a frontline supervisor, they move up to a middle manager, that kind of thing. And certain industries are very specialized, and so they become kind of Peter principled, to use the term there, moved up into that role. And management or leadership, I'll call it, I'd set management to the side, but leadership is probably the one thing that never gets enough focus, right? When you look at everything you do, healthcare people, they have to have continuing education. HR people have to keep certifications up. You know, your dentists, your lawyers, all these people have constant training, new techniques, new things.
Yep.
You get to leadership, and it's kind of like, well, you've been deputized. You're good to go.
Yeah.
And people don't, invest in their people the way they need to.
Yeah.
Companies don't always. And so sometimes a lot of my clients, they come from that, hey, I was one of you. Now all of a sudden I'm your boss, and now all of a sudden I don't really know how to manage through that.
Right. And a lot of times employees can tend to kind of treat you differently when you get put into that position.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you coach that individual that's going through that? And most of the time people are friends with their coworkers, and then when they get moved up into,
it's a tough thing.
Yeah. So how do you coach that?
Yeah, so every situation's different, One of the things that I ask people is, if they're really your friend, they won't put you in that position as a manager, right? They won't take advantage of your previous friendship or your existing friendship. But the reality of it is...
I was just going to say, but that's not reality. Yeah,
the reality is they're, people are human, right? There's a book out there called Monday Morning Leadership. Probably one of the best books for dealing with this kind of things. And there's a chapter in it, and I can visualize the chapter, and it's called Drivers and Passengers. And so when you're walking to the car, everybody's equal. Everybody's equal. We all have the same responsibility. We got to walk and get into the car. The soon as you open the door and sit down in that driver's seat, you have a different responsibility than everybody else in the car. People that are in the passenger seat, the back seat, they can take pictures, they can play on their phones, they're laughing, they're joking.
Yeah.
When you're driving the car, you are a completely different level of responsibility. You're responsible for everybody in that car to get where they're going safe.
Sure.
And so when I coach people, I kind of use that example because it helps people go, oh, it's not a personal thing, it's a role thing. All of a sudden, now I'm in a different role.
Mm-hmm.
When you leave the building, though, you're still the boss. So sometimes that can be a little bit tricky, if you want to still go out and have a beer with somebody or whatever.
Yeah. So do you recommend that new boss to try to relate to those coworkers at that level and explain that analogy themselves? Or what do you advise for that individual?
Yeah, it's everyone's personalities are different, their situations are different, but generally speaking, the second you start to try to do that and try to spell it out, people start to, oh, he's already let that go to his head. Now he's the boss, and so my advice is really to be natural and to just start keeping respectful boundaries in those scenarios, right?
What do respectful boundaries look like typically?
Well,
I know it's different on per case.
You're different,
Right.
but typically, you know what's right and wrong and why you've been put in that position, and so you almost have to work harder in those positions when you're just starting out to really anticipate. I know Jerry and we go bowling on Sunday. I'm making this up, of course. We do go bowling.
Yeah, you don't want to see me go bowling. It's not pretty, but
if we go bowling and grab some beers every Monday night, and then all of a sudden now I'm going to be his boss, we might have to have a conversation about that, right? Yeah. Hey, I like you. There's nothing personal, but I'm not going to be able to continue to do that, right? So I think it's important for people to just be clear and transparent and candor with their team, because, when we were talking about, even back to our earlier conversation of, well, this person's talking like a normal person. He's not stuffy. He's not this, I know everything type of a person. The more that can be your personality, people will like you, and then they won't put you in that position.
Right. Well, so as a coach consultant, either role, how often would you be dealing with that person, not the owner? I mean, do you do much of employee engagement like that, or is it mostly you're dealing with the owner on policies, procedures?
It really depends on the size of the company, So if I'm working in a smaller company, and I'm going to define small as being like sub 10 million or something like that, then I'm probably working with the owner, maybe the owner and their first manager or whatever that might be. When you start getting into the multi-billion-dollar corporations and things like that, you might be working with a middle manager, a division leader, or something like that. But it just really depends who the client is.
It's more departmentalized at that point.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but
well, what haven't we talked about that Marty wants to talk about? Because we're pushing almost an hour already.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it goes quick, doesn't it? It goes quick.
It did go quick.
Yeah. So let's, because I always fear that when we have these hour and a half, 2 hour podcasts, people see the time and don't listen.
Sure.
And I don't want to cut you short on viewership, because of that. So what have we not touched on that's important to you?
Well, probably the thing that's important to me and what I get asked a lot, and sometimes it's that you don't get asked it, but you want to spell that out for people, is, people really want to know what makes you different or why they would want to work with you as a coach or a consultant versus...
That's what runs through my head through the whole podcast, and I didn't ask. I wasn't sure if that was going to be rude to ask or not, but...
No, I welcome the question.
Okay.
Because people think it. And so what I say is I come from a place of lived experience. I showed up at a company, this will be a story for another podcast, accidentally, and got hired accidentally at my previous job.
Accidental hire.
Accidentally
I do want to hear this
hired.
At some point.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. It'll be funny. But I got hired there accidentally, and basically pushing a broom. And I moved up through the ranks, and I held every position on the way from entry-level employee all the way to the general manager of a multi-site operation. Oh. And so I say that not to brag, but to just tell people I've lived every type of scenario with that. We've went through over 29 years, growth spurts, downturns.
Sure.
The economy. We had the 2000 and the Arthur Anderson stuff and all the stuff back then. We dealt with that. We dealt with the 08 stuff.
Yep.
And then COVID. And so I have a lot of lived experience that I bring to the table. And the reason I chose to start with Focal Point is really that I can bring all that experience to the table and then I can go to the Focal Point resources and help with the coaching stuff. So I didn't have to reinvent the wheel.
So
so to
Focal Point
speak.
is not Marty McQuiston.
Right. I
Focal
own.
Point is a franchise.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So you have resources besides yourself
Absolutely.
to lean on.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Focal Point, there's a whole community of coaches, and what really attracted me to Focal Point was they're a franchise, yes, but they're not some place that just says, "Hey, you can write a check for this amount
Right.
and you can have a franchise."
Right. You're
You
a business coach.
right. You go through a vetting
Sign here.
process, and every one of the coaches has to have some sort of background, whether you've owned a business, ran a business. Some of our coaches were in HR, others were sales leaders, just different types
Sure.
of coaches. So you have to have that background before you even can pass the screening to go through the process. And then you have to get certified, and so there's a lot of criteria that goes into it. So that was maybe the main reason I went, but the other thing was they're not asking you to whitewash your past. When you show up at this, you're bringing your 29 years of experience, and then their material complements your background rather
Sure.
than competes with it.
Sure.
And then anything that you really haven't been through, which I've been through quite a bit in my career, we have a network of 250 coaches. Somebody out there
Right.
has dealt with it.
Right.
So if I'm working with a client and they, hey, I've got this problem, and well, geez, I've never run into that.
Yeah.
I can go on our group and say, hey, does anybody dealt with this? And
Somebody. Yeah.
90 seconds, somebody somewhere in the world is going to come back and say, oh, shoot, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
They'll come back and they'll say, yeah, here, let's get on a call
Sure.
and I'll help you through this.
Okay.
So you've got a supportive community within the brand.
Sure. Well, how do you differ? Let me ask you that in a
Yeah.
different way. I'm gonna put you on a spot for a second,
yeah,
right?
Good.
So I own Broadway Car Care,
Yeah.
right? Automotive repair shop. And I've decided that I need a coach. I need a
Mm-hmm.
consultant coach. I probably, let's be fair, I probably don't know the difference.
Sure.
Most of your business owners don't know, but I know I need help.
Yep.
Why would I call you versus going online and finding a automotive based consulting firm or consultant coach, whatever, but someone that's in my industry? Why would I consider you, being you don't have the automotive background?
Yeah, because I'm going to show up, I'm going to meet you where you're at, and I'm going to help you through the problems that you're facing. And, if we need to call in a automotive expert, then I'm not doing my job very well.
Sure.
Because you're the automotive expert.
Right.
So if you're looking for somebody to train somebody how to use your new tire balancer
Sure.
thing,
Yep. Right.
I am not the guy.
Right.
I am not the guy. But if you need somebody to help you improve your business results and strengthen your business, that's where I come in.
That's a good point, because you're right, because if I'm the auto shop owner and I need help
Mm-hmm.
with the auto shop side,
Right.
I'm in the wrong business. I
Right.
mean, we're way beyond coaching at that point.
Yeah.
That's root cause. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if it's
Or not beyond coaching, but also just that, Marty's not the solution for that case.
Right,
If
right.
you're needing help with specific to your industry, you wouldn't look to Marty. If you're needing help running and managing business aspects of it, Marty's your guy.
yeah.
Right, but I'm siding more with where Marty was headed on that. If I'm the auto shop owner
Mm-hmm.
and I need help literally fixing a car, that's a pretty serious need for a guy that's already invested in owning an auto shop. I mean,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well,
so,
the only-
so I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. That's a great answer. That's why I thought,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of, every industry has their industry specific,
Yep. Yep.
firms.
Yep.
But you're right. There probably, if I do find that, there probably isn't one in Rochester.
Might not
and
be. Yep.
Right.
and if there is one in the Twin Cities, he's probably
Yeah.
not driving down. It's going to be virtual, and
Yeah.
and I'm old. I don't like virtual.
One thing I've noticed in managing social media platforms is there's a lot of armchair experts out there.
Yeah.
And when you, especially working in skilled trades, there's huge algorithms for it. But when you start to get recognition on a national scale, you have so many different ways somebody would prefer to do it, and they are not shy.
Right.
They are very vocal, and they'll
Right.
be right there. So how do you navigate through all of that as a business owner and know
Right.
that there's multiple ways to get it done? So is that a situation where you would be able to come into play, or are they going to need more niche specific?
Yeah, it can. I can come in. I can help you diagnose that. I can, again, the subject matter expert is really you. If we're talking social media, right? I'm not going to be able to tell you. I'm probably going to ask you questions about that and try to help you navigate that. If Jerry is looking for social media for his business, Jerry and I working together may determine that we need help in social media.
We need to hire you.
And we got to get, and so if you're talking specifically about how you're operating your business and getting the noise out of everything, that can come from clarity, understanding where you want to go with it.
There's no way to stop the noise, right? Because once you rattle the cage, the bird's going to keep
Yes.
chirping, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so I guess what I'm saying is your coaching would come in for the mental health of the individual who's going through that noise.
Good.
Because, I mean, negative feedback is still good feedback because it feeds views and feeds comments.
Sure.
And pushes your content out there, even if it's negative. Now, if it's a slur or vulgar or just absolutely wrong to have up,
Right.
then you can censor it. But I would say where you would come into play in that industry, in that aspect, is the mental toll. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch Stranger Things or not, but Philly or L or 11, for maybe the younger audience or people that are
My
fans out
son's
there,
gonna love
right?
whatever you're gonna say here. I guarantee
She received so much hate in the first seasons because she looked like a young boy. Now she's coming of age. She still kind of has those masculine features, but she got so much slander for it. So she
Sure.
ended up getting Botox and facelifts and stuff like that to have more of a feminine appeal. And then when she did that in the newest season, she also got a bunch of backlash saying, "Oh my gosh, now she looks so fake."
Yeah.
And so I would say a coach would be a person that individual can rely on when they get put in the spotlight to help with their mental health.
Yeah. I'm certainly not a psychologist,
Right,
but I know when we had our.
But I know crazy when I see it.
When we had our one-on-one, I think you kind of coined the term business therapist or something when we were talking, and that is, I do help people with those things. It kind of, there's one other kind of spear on the Venn diagram that, you've got coaching and you've got consulting. Well, you've also got mentorship, right?
Sure.
And so more of what you're talking about is driving more towards the mentorship. And, that's another kind of aspect of the whole ecosystem there. So that person, it's unfortunate that they would listen to people and make changes based on, hatred and that kind of thing. It's a sad time we live in now. But I would just tell people like that. Somebody had this quote, so I'd love to give them credit, but winners focus on winning and losers focus on winners. Yeah. So when you have people that are, fast to throw shade at you, and I'm using the younger terms, those are the people that they're more they're saying more about themselves than they are about the person they're talking.
Well, I think I'm hoping we can all three agree on this. To your point, answering my question on why would I hire you versus an automotive, specialty consultant. At the end of the day, your business, my business, his business, they're all the same.
Yeah.
I mean, the business side of it is all the same. And that's mainly what you're going to focus on.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's really what you're going to help with, because you have to walk in assuming Jordan is going to be good with social media. He understands that. But being great at social media, how's your payroll skills?
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. How's your marketing? How is marketing your business skills? Because if you're trying to market to people who need social media may not. I mean, may not be the right avenue to
Right.
promote your own business to
Could
get to the
be.
people that don't use social
I
media.
can tell you that's
know?
very difficult marketing
Yeah.
social media and running social media at the same time
Right.
because everyone's
Yeah.
got a different.
Well, people are going to laugh. It's like, why run a social media company? Where do you advertise? Billboards,
Yeah.
Radio. I mean, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's it. Well,
Right.
but again, you break that down. A lot of us old guys, we're not putting a lot of effort into social media. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be advertising on it. But if I'm
Right.
not on there, but if you add on heavily on social media, and I'm not, and I don't have Facebook, I don't have X, if I'm not doing that stuff, you're not going to get me. Now,
Right.
just because I'm not on it personally doesn't mean my business shouldn't be. And so you've got to be creative in that too. And but again, that's not about a social media company. That's about marketing.
Yeah.
That's, and then payroll. Like I say, are you big enough to hire a payroll company? Should we hire an HR Solutions, a Brennan Erickson, for instance, or are you just a QuickBooks subscription away from doing your own for
Right.
now? Where do you make those?
Well, and and that's where you bring the clarity in, right? From the coaching is not, I think we've talked about it before, in session or in our Tuesday thing. Is
Session. I feel like I should be on a couch.
gosh, session. it's that it's really about whatever you value your time at, right? So if you were to just use round math, if you're valuing your time at $100 an hour as the business owner, then you shouldn't be doing $15 an hour stuff or $20 an hour stuff. That's where you need to really focus on those things, because if not, or I think you even use the example of it might take me twice as long too. So not only is it a higher wage that I'm forfeiting, it's going to take you double time to do it.
No, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
if you value your services and your product at this, that's what a lot of business owners struggle with, I feel like, is when I'm sitting down with people and they're talking about sales or I need to increase profits, and they're charging themselves $15 an hour,
Right.
and they're doing the work for $100 an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your target audience is all wrong. Then you're targeting the wrong tax bracket.
Right.
If you value yourself at $100 an hour, there is an audience for you. You're just not honing your scopes in. It's like when you're going hunting,
Yeah.
and you're trying to shoot dove,
Yep.
and you're just like, okay, I'm going to take the shotgun and I'm just going to blow it in the air, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, you're in California, brother.
Yeah.
you need to be in Texas.
Yeah.
There you go. That's where the best dove hunting is. So it's like you're targeting something, but you're in the wrong area.
Right. Right.
Right.
We got the wrong choke in the tube.
Well,
Or the wrong hunting dog.
Yeah.
You're scaring them off.
Yeah.
Get out of here. It's a chihuahua barking at all the birds that fly by.
when I hear the young business owners talk about, you mentioned earlier, how many hats do you wear? Right? As an owner, many.
Yep.
Right? And so I always ask them, so what does each one pay? And it's never, I never get an answer.
No.
I always get that. What do you mean? It's like, well, I said, you own the business, right? And I said, you know what you make, right? You cash your checks, you write your checks and you cash them. You know what you make. You got 6 different hats.
Yeah.
We all do. We're business owners. What does each one pay?
Right.
And you will learn to prioritize which hat you put on. If you realize, like you said, when I'm doing the job that pays $15 an hour and I put that hat on, if I actually paid myself $15 an hour, I'd spend a lot less goddamn time doing that job, right?
You'd find a streamlined way to deal
I would
with it.
find a
or
way to do
somebody
it, or
do
somebody
for you.
that's willing to do it for $15 an hour. That's what
Yeah.
it's worth. I mentioned I talked to this window and door guy, right, at the gym, and the way that conversation started was he needs some help, this and that, and he said, and we were talking about what you pay yourself, and this hat conversation came up, and he's like, I'm going to ask this, but I don't want an answer. I'm not trying to be too private. But he says, what do you pay yourself? How do you? I was like, I pay myself as much as I can.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. I said, I do. And he's like, okay. So he said, if I needed help this weekend and I wanted you to come put in windows and doors with me, what would it cost me? What would you cost me an hour? I was like, to help you put in windows and doors. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know, $25-$30 an hour? And he laughs. He goes, you don't make $25 or $30 an hour. I said, I don't.
Yeah.
And he goes, but you'd come help me put windows in for $25 or $30 an hour. I'm like, that's what the job's worth.
Yep.
That's what the job's worth. It's not about what I'm worth. And I said, and let's be fair. putting in windows and doors. You have me putting in windows and doors. What am I worth putting in? You should probably pay me more like $15 an hour.
Right.
Let's be fair. You know, I mean, that's
Right.
because that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
But I said, if you're willing to be generous and pay me what the job is worth, what's the job worth? And he goes, yeah, you know that he says really probably between $30 and $40 an hour. I'm like, okay, well, I was close, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's whatever that job is worth. You know, he goes, and you do that. I said, probably not.
Yeah.
But I said, we're friends. If you
Right,
told me
right.
you're in a pinch, you need some help, and there's just no
Yeah.
other way around it, you could use me Saturday, I'll come help you for a few hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And am I going to tell you, well, this is what I pay myself, this is what I'm worth?
Right.
Well, this is what I'm worth doing what I do.
Right.
Now, of course, I'm going to step on your toes a little bit, not
yeah.
intentionally,
No.
but I told him, I said, no. I said, I run business. That's what I do. And I said, and I do try to mentor. I do try to help people when I can. So I said, if you call me and say, hey, this Saturday, I really need to drive more sales. I need to cut some costs. I need to streamline the business. I need to be more efficient.
Right.
Can you help me with that? I'm like, I can.
Yeah.
And he's like, not for $30 or $40 an hour. I was like,
No.
no, sir.
No.
Now you're in my specialty.
Yeah.
Now I know what I'm worth. And now you
Exactly.
get to pay me what I'm worth.
Right.
And I said, and you're not going to like that number, but when I give it to you.
Yeah.
But I said 6 months from now, when all the processes are flowing and the money's coming in and everything is moving and you're losing less hair and you're getting more sleep at night, I said, you're going to love that number.
Yeah.
And you're going to love me and you're going to love your business again and you're not going to hate it anymore. I said, and it was funny because as I'm saying this out loud, this
Yeah.
is so dumb, but as I'm saying this out loud, I'm thinking of you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is what Marty does,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, that's not what I do. I run my own businesses, but I
Right.
would help him. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I'm like, same guy, same Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
One's going to cost you $30 or $40 an hour, and you're probably getting screwed.
Right.
Let's be honest, because you got me doing windows and doors. You know, but
Yeah.
again, don't take your best salesman and
Right.
make him your worst manager.
Exactly.
So it's like you want help. You want to help streamlining the business, creating efficiencies, and getting more sleep at night and making money while you're doing it. Call me.
Right.
But pay me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not going to be $30, $40 an hour. You know,
Right,
we're
right.
going to get paid for
It's
this.
it's an investment in
Right.
their business's trajectory.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he was just like, and it was funny because he's like, that makes perfect sense. Because he was giving me the deer in the headlight look at first. You know, when
Yeah.
he said, you'd come to help me for $30 an hour? Well, yeah, and you're probably getting the raw end of the deal.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you know, and he's like, and he goes, well, you are too. I'm like, oh, I'm getting screwed. I mean, you know, but you look at what I make in an
Yeah,
hourly
yeah.
wage. If we
Yeah.
break it down to that, I come to you for $30. I'm
Yeah.
getting absolutely decimated. But you're getting screwed too. Neither one of us
Right.
are. This is the point. The point is, don't ask me to come put in windows on Saturday. This is not going to be good for
Right.
either one of us.
Right.
But you know, it's like, but yeah, it's like, you don't ask an elephant to climb a tree, right?
Right.
I mean, you just pick what you're good at, and I can help you, and I can help your business a ton, but it's not installing windows,
Right,
You know,
right.
and so we had a good
Exactly.
laugh, you know. But
Yeah.
but he was just like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of you the whole time. I was like, I've got to find a way to get this conversation to
Yeah,
Marty because
yeah.
I thought you'd enjoy that. Just,
Yeah.
you know,
I love it.
the way it went, but. I said, yeah, is it possible to screw both of us in the same time? Sure. Invite me to put in windows and pay me what the job's worth.
That's
Yes,
right.
We're both dumb for that. So anything else you want to cover, Marty, before we wrap things up?
No, I don't. I think we did a good job. I mean, it was.
Yeah,
it
it
was
was a little
lot
over an
of
hour.
fun.
We got would you
So-
come back and do it again?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
I think
Yeah.
it'd be a good time to let everyone know where they can tune in or follow your pages, any kind of links.
Yeah, how do they get a hold of you? How do we
Yeah.
hire you?
Yeah, you can hire me any way you want.
I got some windows that need to
Yeah.
be put in, I guess. I got a friend.
I'm not a Windows guy. The thing, so it's a lot of words, a lot of letters to get to where I go, but so I'm sure we can put a link in the description or whatever, but it's martymcquiston.focalpointcoaching.com
Okay.
is the website. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, and locally here in Rochester.
How do you spell McQuiston? Just for the
It's-
folks out there.
McQuiston.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. And local phone number 507-250-4325.
Awesome.
And so those are good ways to get a hold of me. Come to SBR.
Yeah, come to SBR
and-
Tuesday mornings at 7 o'clock.
That'd
That's
be
right.
a good one too.
That's right. And you can always reach out, comment on on this podcast. Because one thing which Marty did a great job. He's not like me and talks with his hands a ton. I forgot to tell Marty that 4 out of the 5 platforms this is on is audio only, so
Okay.
don't explain things with your hands.
Yeah.
only our YouTube viewers are going to see that. So
I feel like
yes.
what's the Will Ferrell? I don't know what to do with my hands.
Right. Well, Marty, I had a blast. This was so much fun. I
likewise.
hope. Have you done a podcast before?
This is my first time.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
So,
Well, you're willing to come back, Jordan?
Absolutely.
Any parting words on your end?
No. Yeah, if you're interested in learning more, schedule a time to meet with Marty. He's very open with his schedule, so yeah, it's not hard to get a hold of him. Give him a call at that number. Obviously, come to SBR Group because we're the best chapter on Tuesdays.
yeah.
And yeah.
And we should put a shameless plug in for add-on.
Oh yeah.
I really think you need to give us a little 2-second or 2-minute what's add-on.
Yeah. Add-on, it originated because I am a huge gamer. Ever since I was about 8 years old, I was on a mobile app that was a role-playing game, MMO. It was very advanced for its time, but I went for Adonis as my name, and that was taken. So I was like, Adonix, right? And so I've been Adonix ever since up till now, and I'm 26 years old. And so I wanted to keep it. And so I went with Adon Media Management. So that's where the Adon comes from.
I keep saying it wrong. I apologize.
Yeah.
You got to correct me.
Adon, add-on. It's like add-on services.
I was thinking
whatever.
add-ons. That's what I thought. I thought it had some meaning that way. So see, I'm glad you explained it. So
Yep. So that's
that'll
the
help me
origin
remember.
of it. Yeah. I started a podcast called Past Our Prime with a good buddy of mine who went to school for film and production at OSU OKC in Oklahoma. And we fell in love with it. We talked about everything OKC Thunder, about last year's playoffs and winning the national championship. That was great, coming from Oklahoma. Anyways, we fell in love with the editing, and we were on social media platforms, and they were performing very, very well. We understood how to reach that audience, the algorithms, hooks, all of that. Well, that kind of fell short, but it was always in the back of my mind. It was an itch, and I was like, I love being a creative. I've been in payments for so long, working with numbers, analyzing statements, and it's just, that is interesting in itself because you can see how much you could save a company money. But being a creative and thinking like, well, if you struggle with your speech and I have an interview with you and I can cut it up and I can actually make it flow, or I can change how it looks. If you're stressed out, I can make it more emotional, right? With a little bit of lighting, a little bit of music. And so I can kind of shape it to how you want it to be with that. And so I liked that aspect. And so I was doing some stuff on the side for a buddy of mine that is a big gamer as well. Talk about Twitch and streams and promoting on social media platforms and getting people there. And so I said, why not? And I started looking more into this. Some of my clients were interested in how other ways that they could market. And I said, well, social media is the biggest sales driver in the world, especially here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And I go up to business owners all the time, and I'm like, yeah, you join these networking groups, SBR Group, BNI, Chamber of Commerce, because you're trying to market your services and tell people what you do. And then I said, so I always ask the question, I said, show of hands, who scrolled through social media today, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, or even YouTube?
Yeah.
And it was midday when I went to this networking group, and everyone raised their hands. Or some people didn't because they've been working all day. And I said, okay, yesterday, have you used any of those platforms? Everyone raised their hands. And so I said, why are business owners, and business professionals not utilizing social media if the exact audience that they're trying to target to uses it every single day? Mm-hmm. And I said, so how do you get in front of those people, right? And so it's crazy because you go out to big cities like Chicago, LA, Dallas, and every single business invests thousands of dollars into social media because as if it's a utility bill. So I'm thinking in my head here in Rochester, Minnesota, it's not a big urgency, but there's a need there. Mm-hmm. And so I started working with a few clients, saw some pretty great results with the strategy I put together. And yeah, it's a full-time passion now. I love it. I have a full-time editor, and I'm looking into some freelance videographers right now. And
That was a plug itself.
yeah, so I mean, it's fantastic, but I mean, I could go on and on about why you need social media, but I mean, most people understand they need it, they just don't know how.
Yeah.
Don't know how to do it.
And so that's kind of where I come in and I give you a strategy.
So what kind of freelance? I mean, I was not kidding. That's a great plug. What kind of freelancers are you looking for?
I am looking for right now someone who understands recording on a phone, because the mobile platforms perform best if you're recording with iPhone or Android or even a Samsung. I prefer iPhones, but if you are familiar with Apple, that's typically the best when you're uploading.
So help us out. Help us find Jordan some workers.
Yeah.
Someone to come out there and help. So freelancers to help out.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like this could be a pretty good working partnership too between you guys.
Yeah.
So
My
awesome.
social media is not good, so I might need.
But I mean, even for like your clients, when
yeah.
you know, a good
Yep,
working
yep.
partnership to
Yep.
share clients and
Yep.
and utilize each other too. So, well, perfect. Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming out tonight and driving out here to the big city of
is great.
Swartville. And you said you'll come back, so I'm going to hold you to that.
absolutely.
I'm going to hold you to that. So, how about co-hosting? Would you ever be interested in taking Jordan's
Yeah.
spot once in a while when he's not available? And
Yeah, I'd do
Craig?
that.
Okay, awesome. Well, guys, any last parting words?
No.
No, we're good.
Follow,
All right.
subscribe, like Small
Ooh.
Business Talk with Jerry.
Social
all of
media
those
guy
good stuff.
right there. That's
Follow,
what we
like,
need.
subscribe, whatever you want to do. Hit that like button. You know, it all feeds great.
Yeah, help out Small Business Talk with Jerry. We want
Yeah.
to grow this too. We want to make sure that everybody gets their 15 minutes of fame, and why not do it here?
Yeah.
Smash
And if you could-
that like button.
That's right. Smash that. like
And if you
button.
want to really, really support, watch it multiple times over. Always helps. And then stay past 3 seconds, for God's sake. Let's fix our short attention span.
Yes.
Stay past 3 seconds.
Yes,
I promise
awesome.
it's worth it.
Thanks, guys. Again,
Thank
have a
you.
great night.
You too.